Well, first of all, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line for a Friday, 17th of July. Alex in the chair through until 1 o'clock this afternoon. It's an open line. What would you like to talk about? 66 13 68 is the number to call. We do, of course, accept your text messages and your WhatsApp messages as well, but we'd love to talk to you on the phone and have a bit of a chinwag. That's what we do best, let's be honest. But you can text in 166 177 or WhatsApp on the same number. So what do you think about the taxi regulation? Taxi drivers fear their industry is being dragged through the mud. Do you agree? And also out west, of course, the new beach stage out in Peel. Peel commissioners say there's been lots of positivity from the local community about the new beach stage. Are you enjoying it? Let's be honest, a day at the beach at the moment in this kind of weather recently has been something that's definitely been on most people's to-do list, hasn't it? And there are the traditional ones, your Port Erin and your Peel beaches. Those are the classic ones that people go to with families. But there was the odd day where you looked down Douglas Promenade and there were people on Douglas Beach again, which hasn't been seen since the balmy days of tourism. I think the last time I was actually on Douglas Beach, I was about, 6 or 7 years old, something like this, with my family. I'm sure there's a photo of me there somewhere. You still had was there a Manx Ices hut? Do I remember something along the lines of the bottom of Broadway at the top of the sewer outfall there, where they used to stack all the deck chairs? Yeah, I'm taking me back. So, when it comes to going to the beach, do you think that adding new attractions such as the beach stage are a good thing? I'd like to hear from you. 66 13 68. Of course, we've had the King's visit this week, Lord of Man. He was here on the island and not only brought beautiful weather, but got a fantastic turnout from the Manx public as well. What a jam-packed programme. I did see an article that was online. It was an Australian news article, so, news travelled far and wide. And it was saying that when it comes to a whistle-stop tour, and a varied one in such a short space of time, it was a masterclass, was the Isle of Man visit, was their words. Yeah. In terms of doing the legislative role of addressing Tynwald as the head of state, Lord of Man, and then going to a garden party and meeting various people there from various charities and different institutions, and then rushing down to unveil a plaque and endorse the 150th year of the horse trams. Here on the Isle of Man, the world's oldest horse tramway that's kind of half finished. And then going to another charity event at Heroes in the Water in Port Sodrick, all before jetting back off to the UK for further engagement. So it did go like clockwork. Is it something we should be proud of here as an island? When it comes to doing pomp and pageantry and state visits, even on a smaller scale to some of the other bigger countries in the world, we seem to have pulled that one off really well without a hitch. Are you proud of that? Let me know your thoughts. 66 13 68. Robert's on the line. Robert wants to talk something positive. Good afternoon, Robert.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm not so bad.
What did you say there? Sorry, I missed that.
I said you were going to talk about something positive, I believe.
Yes. If I can just turn on my speaker, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so I just turned on Facebook and it says Isle of Man Creamery has picked up 2 category trophies in the 2026 International Cheese and Dairy Awards.
Oh, excellent.
Strengthening his reputation on the global stage. So I'm really happy for them,
Do you because we know for well that our cheeses from Isle of Man Creamery are shipped out worldwide, aren't they? And they're of a very high standard. The creamery in recent years seems to be getting quite a lot of accolades. Is it something you feel we should be proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I have it with my omelettes. I get grated cheese from Tesco.
Which is your favourite
really
one?
Happy with it.
Which is your favourite one? Because there's so many different types.
Well, the award apparently was for peppercorn, but I usually just go with the grated mature cheese, because I just usually have it with my omelette.
I'll tell you now, the peppercorn is worth it. You can grate it yourself. I do like the peppercorn. So, we'll turn it into a cookery show today, but I can recommend the peppercorn if you fancy trying it. So
okay, cookery show it is.
What would you say to people who've not tried Manx cheese and just normally buy whatever's cheapest on the shelf?
Well, I mean, it's fantastic. It's really good. So what it does, the salt allocation is the right amount, and it's really good cheese, I think they actually use it when you get your chips and cheese over at the Terrace Chippy and things like that. So it is local, you know.
Yeah, it hasn't had to travel very far to get to you, has it? Really?
No, I mean it's good at what it does. You know, it's good cheese. I was just happy that they got the award, and I was just wanted to celebrate that. Really, something Manx, good story, homespun wisdom, and all the rest of it. It's good story, you know.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks for that, Robert, and thanks for
Okay.
spreading the cheer there. Lovely. Great news for the Creamery. Thank you, Robert, for pointing that out. Yeah, the cheese on the Isle of Man is something that is award winning, and it's something that we can celebrate as a local industry, and it's good quality. So thank you, Robert, for getting in touch about that. Let's have a look at a couple of your messages in. I did mention at the beginning about the state of mobile coverage on the Isle of Man. Now, no matter who you speak to, that they seem to say that the coverage, Manx Telecom's coverage especially, seemed to be dreadful during TT. This is your mobile coverage, your 4G, and everyone kind of presumed that, it's TT, it's busy, there's a lot more people here. We're paying a premium service, but we'll put up with it for TT, and it's not got better since. What is going on? Because I've had no communication from Manx Telecom. Maybe you have. Either offering an excuse or maybe offering a refund for the poor service that you're receiving. Because I'm having calls cut out, that things are bouncing back to 3G in the middle of highly populated areas like Douglas. Do you have trouble with your mobile signal on the Isle of Man? Okay, and which provider is it? The people I've spoken to so far seems to be all roundly Manx Telecom, who are, of course, now owned by somebody else. Yeah, Jersey Telecom. Now, are we about to get second-rate service whilst they just fleece us and take the money off us? Well, I'm interested in your thoughts, and if anyone from Manx Telecom's listening and can actually provide us with a reason or his excuse as to why the service has declined to such an extent, we'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with us here at Manx Radio, 66 13 68, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. Good afternoon, Alex. Just heard you mention about mobile phone coverage, which is quite abysmal at times. I did get a text last week from Shaw, who has started to upgrade their mobile coverage to 5G. Let's hope the coverage can get better soon. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, because when you go to the UK, 5G's been around for ages. And all our phones, of course, are ready. As soon as you get off the boat in Liverpool, that's it. Your phone goes, bing, 5G, and everything's all lovely and fast. And yet, Manx Telecom, we were still waiting for 5G from them, weren't we? And they were given a significant amount of public money in order to upgrade the network to fibre. And I think someone did turn around, didn't they? Say much cheaper. They could have just given everyone the money to buy Starlink, and they would have got a quicker service, and it would have cost the government less money. Not particularly sure how that would have worked. Thank you very much to 069, who says, regarding mobile coverage on the island, I've been using the iPhone app Buffering Britain, which maps and reports on the true state of coverage. Oh, that's interesting. I must try that and see how the Isle of Man fares on that. Thank you. Tony says, hi, Alex. With regards to the King's visit being a masterclass, it's easy to make things happen when someone else is paying for it. Be interesting to see how much it cost us in the end, and if we're able to claim it all back from Buckingham Palace, would they have gone so extravagant with everything? Well, I'm not sure Buckingham Palace would have paid for it, because it's our state visit, isn't it? Because the monarch is our head of state. Same way as if you had a presidential visit, it's still a head of state visit, isn't it? It was more interesting, wasn't it? That amazing how all the things that we complain about a lot on the Mannin Line all kind of got sorted and tarted up. Yeah, when there's a state visit, just shows you they can do it. In fact. Thank you, G, who's just texted in saying, find it interesting the DOI could find the money to tidy up the routes taken by the King. Yet on the road down past the Governor's house, not in sight of the King, branches and vegetations are growing into the road. It's a good point, G. Likewise, I drove the coast road to Douglas today, and as you come down past what I know used to be the Poker Stars building, King Edward House there above Port Jack, they are fully resurfacing. There's a team of contractors resurfacing the old White City Road around the cliff tops there. Yet the main road is truly diabolical. The surface of it, it's cracked, it's bouncy, it's bumpy, it's smashing through loads of cars' suspension. Yet we seem to be resurfacing the road on the cliff top that wasn't in poor condition. And let's be honest, it's not the only time you'll have heard of this. So the question is, why? Why does the DOI choose to resurface and make it smooth, beautifully like a billiard table on a piece of road that doesn't need it? Yet the arterial routes are dreadful. If anyone knows, let me know. G, I'm sure you can find that out. Thank you very much to Kevin, who says, I'd just like to chat about vehicle licensing service or lack of service. Well, Kevin, do give us a call, 66 13 68. In fact, he has. Look at that. It's almost like the system works. So, Kevin, hello. You want to talk about vehicle licensing?
Yes, please, Alex. How are you today?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Perturbed to say the least about this very poor service that the vehicle licensing service are providing now.
Mm.
They've taken away the normal service from the post office and they've put it online, but they haven't got the staff to do the job. You phone them up, they don't answer the phones. They give you an answer machine and say they'll call you back. I've been waiting a week, they haven't called me back. And you can do licensing over the internet, which is no problem. But if you want to put a new license plate on your car, you've got to wait a week, a fortnight, whereas before you could get it done in a day.
So your point is that obviously it's not restricted to vehicle licensing. We know they keep on pushing everything online because, of course, it's an automated process. A lot of the time it's cutting down on their costs. We know why they do it. But you're saying that even with the online service, it's made the actual service to the customer even worse.
Yeah, and they can't do the job. They haven't got the staff to do it, whereas I don't know how many post offices were around Ireland, but you just go down the post office, whether you're in Ramsey, Douglas, Ballasalla, and get it done. Now, if you've got a problem and you're in Ramsey, you've got to travel down to the licensing service. You go in there and you hear the phones ringing. The staff have got their backs to you and they don't answer the phones and they're not providing a service. It's not been thought through.
Do you feel that it's almost a case of it's been taken back from the post office but not being given the money or the resources or the human beings behind it to actually service it properly?
Exactly. When they took over it, they closed the welcome service down at the steam packet to go up and help them out, and they couldn't even get that right. It's just... I don't like swearing, but
please don't. In terms, though, Kevin, of improving this situation. I mean, whereabouts do you live on the island? Have you spoken to your local MHK? Because it's an election time. It is time to go and twist their ear on things like this.
I haven't, but they're aware of the problem. It's the Department of Incompetence again. They decide, we'll save money, we'll put it all online, and then they find out it all can't be done online. I've got a car at the moment where I want to take a cherished plate off the car and put it onto a UK plate, which I've got a car here at the moment, ready to go. And, you can do it online, but you've got to wait until they send you the cherished number in the post. And it's taken up to a fortnight, 3 weeks. Whereas before, you just get it done in a day at the post office.
Now, if I turned around to you and said, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that they've obviously done it to save cost and the service has got slower, and this happens in a lot of spheres of life, in the same way that I'm sure when the steam packet replaced the Mannin with a slower boat because it's cheaper on fuel, you'll say you're balancing cost with convenience. Would you be happy paying a lot more for your service to change your cherished plates if it's sped up?
Well, what was wrong with the service they had previous? Okay, it may have cost them more, but now they're not even providing the service.
No, but
you're going to have to go in. You're going to have to go into the vehicle licensing at the test centre, wait in a queue, and it doesn't get done straight away like what the post office did.
But they will say that the reason
it's costing them more.
Yes, well, they'll say that the reason
they're
they've
not
gone
saving money.
But the reason it's so badly resourced at the moment, in your opinion, is probably because of they've cut costs. They haven't got the money. They're trying to find savings, and they'll say, well, we've got savings, but you're going to have to wait longer for your service. So, if they significantly increase the price of the service, would you be happy paying that if they sped it back up to, as you said, being done almost on the same day?
Well, it's not costing them a penny because we pay for our vehicle licensing tax. They were trying to save more money. I don't know, £400 for your tax. They say they don't have to send it out by postage, but they do because you've done it online. You can't print it off yourself at home. They're still posting it out. All the garages could get it done in a day previous, yeah? Garages go up to the test centre and put 30 or 40 or 50 vehicles through in a day. It's not as straightforward nowadays.
Okay.
It's
okay. Well,
it's just frustrating.
I can fully appreciate it. Yeah.
It's not the staff. The staff are 5-star up there, by the way.
It's just there's not
the
enough
staff
of them.
Are wonderful.
Yeah.
Not enough of them. They can't answer the phone because they haven't got the staff. And they haven't thought about the whole process. It's not being costed. It's not been managed. The management needs sacked.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kevin, for that. And hopefully, some MHKs who or potential candidates who are listening will take that on board, because I think that the DOI general has been something that's been talked about throughout this administration, and there's been no real change. So maybe it's just too big a department, and it needs sorting. It's
like Lake Balthane at the Balthane roundabout on another subject.
Oh, well. The state of Balthane roundabout and what it will become when it becomes the bypass, in my great-grandchild's time, I'm sure, is a whole nother topic we could keep going for hours on, couldn't we, really?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
We've been waiting 6 years for that, and now they're saying it's gone up £200,000, but they're talking about spending money on the horse trams, which is a great idea, spend money, but they can't afford to do the Balthane roundabout just now, so get in the queue, horse trams,
Well, in fairness to the DOI, the Balthane roundabout is down to the coal tar that's in there, and they've got to be able to safely to dispose of it first, and they haven't got a facility yet to safely dispose of that coal tar that's in the road. So until they've got that, they can't dig up the road that's there, is the argument. It wasn't the financial argument, it was the case that they couldn't actually dig up the coal tar until they can safely dispose of it. So there's always a lot more behind the scenes, isn't there, Kevin?
Definitely, but we've been waiting on this, I think, 8 years now.
Yep.
And there's a water problem, there's a drainage problem. The DOI's been wasting money hiring pumps from Ace Hire. They could have bought the pump out, the amount of money they've wasted on hiring it.
Yeah.
That problem's been there maybe about 10 years at least, the water. It's a poor relative down south, and it's a main road from the airport to Douglas. And it's a poor show again. Department of Incompetence. As much use as a chocolate fire guard.
All right, Kevin, thanks very much for your call anyway. Lovely to hear you. You can hear the frustration in Kevin's voice there when it comes to the service. He's not the only one who's been in touch with me at times regarding the vehicle licensing and the change of service there, and whether it is or is not properly resourced. Elliot is on the line, and I think Elliot wants to follow up with what we were talking about with Rob earlier. Hello, Elliot. Oh, I've lost Elliot. Oh, poor Elliot. Let's try him once more. Elliot, you there? No, I've lost Elliot. Sorry. He's on the dreaded phone line. It's almost as if he's, maybe David Quirk. I'll try once more. Hello, Elliot. No. Right, we'll get back to Elliot. Right, let's have a look at some of your texts. Texter 009 says, the stream came down Falcon Glen. The brewery used it. I remember the water flowing between the Rose Garden and the bottom of Derby Road. Then it went under the prom and out the pipes depending on rainfall. Oh, that's what we were talking about, when it comes to the outflows on Douglas Promenade. Yeah, I like that. Pompey Pete says, Manx Telecom is no better than Shaw. I'm with Shaw now and I can't connect to the internet on the prom via the villa, and phone calls keep dropping out in the Hillary Park area. What is going on? Texter 345 says, I agree, the Manx Telecom signal on mobile services has gone right downhill since it was sold, but the prices keep increasing. Can they tell us why? I think you can pretty much guess. JK on text says, I challenge you to find a decent, well-driven road on the island. I bet you don't find many or any. Yes, good point. And thank you to those of you who say that, when it comes to the resurfacing on the White City Road, have a look at the people who live there. Yeah, that was... Yeah. Is there any candidates that live on there that the DOI wanted to get rid of? There was always that joke about the roundabout. Yeah, and also Glen Alden. Yeah, there was someone in the DOI who always seems to resurface standing MHK's road just before an election. I'll say no more. Let's have a look. Manx Will on text says, I thought the words spoken by the King in regards to the island, its unique culture, beaches, fishing heritage, and mostly how he reiterated the award-winning, globally famous biosphere status, our birds, wildlife, would imply that he does not wish our water territories or lands to be being a skyscraper turbine disaster. Our government is failing us with their schemes, it's ruining us, and I don't think the humans who love this place will allow them to continue to run the backwards, shoddy online excuse for leadership. Well, thank you, Will. Obviously, the monarch has no opinion on anything political and controversial. That was something that was talked about a lot when his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, passed away, is that once you become monarch, you become quite tight-lipped on anything political. But in terms of the wind farm, the Moor Vannin one, where you say our government is failing us with their schemes, it's not a government scheme, just to put the facts out there. There is two proposals for a wind farm. The government, or the Manx Utilities Authority one, is the Caervai wind farm on land. The one out at sea is whether we are licensing our territorial waters, so effectively renting land for a wind farm. Now, that's the process going through, whether you're for or against it, but it's not actually a government scheme, just to clarify that. Sean says on WhatsApp, it's the same with Shaw Mobile. The signal is awful. Calls won't go through or even ring, paying premium prices compared to the UK for rubbish service. And Greg says, Shaw's been awful since TT as well. I was told by a member of staff at Manx Telecom that Manx Telecom have the contract for all the infrastructure for the wireless systems for mobiles, whatever that might be. So you can... You can change to Shaw, but you're still forced onto the same infrastructure. Yeah, I see your point. So the mobile infrastructure is owned by Manx Telecom, and you're saying that Shaw effectively rents space on it. So sadly, it's the Manx Telecom infrastructure, by the sound of it, that's got the issue. And Selena on WhatsApp says, we need to treat our visitors and tourists like royalty and spruce up the island for them on an ongoing basis, and not just for the day. I don't think you're alone in that opinion there, Selena. Quite a lot of people seem to be echoing the thoughts that it was lovely that they tidied the place up for King Charles. Why can't we do it the rest of the year? And there must be someone in a government office who knows why, and it's interesting they can find the money when they need to. So, what's your opinion on any of the topics we're talking about? Or have you got something else to talk about? Give me a call, 66 13 68.
Start your Saturday the right way with the Saturday Breakfast Club on Manx Radio every Saturday morning from 6 until 8. Wake up to great music, good company, and keep up to date with local events from across the island. Plus, just before 7 o'clock, don't miss the Get Up and Go track, guaranteed to kickstart your weekend. The Saturday Breakfast Club, proudly sponsored by Isle of Man Creameries. And remember, Saturdays start better when we wake up together.
At Bond Fabrics, we're not just a fabric shop. As well as curtains and upholstery and dress and costume fabrics, we've knitting and crocheting wools, made-to-measure curtain and blind service, plus poles and tracks. Visit Strand Street, Douglas, call 611856 or see bondfabrics.im.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All island delivery and man in a van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
15 incredible albums and a worldwide record deal have made Nathan Carter one of country music's brightest stars. And now you can catch him live at the Gaiety Theatre on the 30th of July. Book now for Nathan Carter and his band at villagaiety.com or call 600 555. Presented by RS Promotions and supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
Manx Radio's Mannin Line for Friday afternoon. It's 12:30. Alex with you through until 1. Thank you to Texter 696 who says, John Mosh was a bit harsh on that candidate that's just been aired before 12. The guy is someone who's trying to do better for the island and not some scientific brain box who knows every inch of government. Nobody in government does. He says he was like Trump interviewing a journalist who he hasn't got time for. I know he has to ask questions, but the way he came across wasn't good for him as a presenter or your radio station. Well, I would defend John Moss to the hilt on that one, 696, that we are here to hold people in power to account and to challenge incoming candidates. Now, whether they like being challenged or not, if they want a top job of taking a huge salary and representing constituents and running the country, they have to answer questions and they have to be scrutinised for it. And that's the role of a public service broadcaster. Now, whether you like it or not, if you're going to stand, this is part of it, and you will have to stand up in a debating chamber representing your constituents at Tynwald and in the House of Keys and getting your point across. So if you don't like challenging questions, it's not the job for you. So I would stand by John. He's doing exactly his job. And likewise, I've done some candidate interviews. I think the only one that's gone out so far is Rob Callister. And likewise, I will ask challenging questions. It's what we're meant to be doing. And I'm sure you'd be texting in like crazy if you thought we gave them an easy ride of it just so they could get into the House of Keys and be in there for 5 years. And then you'd be telling us off that they got their noses in the trough and you didn't question them enough. So there we go. On the subject of, M says, on the subject of car licensing, I did try to do it online and it was fairly easy until I tried to pay. It wouldn't accept my credit card, so I used another one which was declined as well. So I drove up from Ramsey and did them in the test centre. They arrived 2 weeks later in the post. So I had 3 vehicles with none of them displaying tax. Okay. Alf says, when it comes to the states of the roads, is that why the Clennock Road is like a silk rug? Alf, I couldn't possibly comment. Now, I've been waiting patiently. I thought he'd forgotten about me. Julian's on. Hello, Julian.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm not so bad. Glorious day again.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Just got to make the most of this because there's kind of some rain on the horizon, I think, for the end of next week or something. So I'll see how it goes.
It'll hear you. It'll hear you. Far away, mate.
Yeah, it is strange, the car tax thing. It's not very green, is it? Because if people got any issues or they don't particularly want to do it online, you've got to drive to Tremode. So if you live at any other, you've got to drive out there to do it. I thought we were all worried about driving everywhere to do stuff. If you live in the south or the north of the island or wherever, there's a few miles to do, isn't there?
It's all about, I would imagine, cutting costs, isn't it? Because if we were truly invested in more community hubs, and this goes back to even before motor vehicles, look how many buildings are around the island that used to be little village schools. And now you've got, like, say, a primary school in Ramsey that covers a huge chunk of the north, whereas there used to be a little one in Maccles and a little one further up the road and things. If we really were bothered about cutting down on our mileage and emissions in cars, we would have community hubs all over the island offering these services, wouldn't we?
In fact, speaking of community things, I noticed that Tesco's now, they've been a little while now, their sort of information desk where they would accept you to pay for your food and stuff, they're refusing that now. So you either have to go through the few remaining manned ones, or you have to go through your automated ones. So it seems there's this constant push to get away from in person, as you can see with the banks, the bank branches disappearing.
Yep.
yesterday's MIMA hearing for Moore Vannin,
Yes.
one little section of it, David Bellamy of Manx Wildlife Trust stated, and I'll quote what he said, collectively, the applicant's modelling, or Orsted's modelling, is looking at 266 annual deaths of guillemots, razorbills and puffins, collectively known as the auk species.
Mm-hmm.
For a small island, that is really quite a significant number, so 266. The problem I have with this 266 death count, just for the auk species, is that the sophisticated model that they're using is supplied with data from Orsted's 2-year aerial survey using down-facing cameras underneath the aircraft. But this method of collecting data is notorious for leaving out crucial data that's required by their sophisticated model. And the model they're using is by a guy called Bill Band from a 2012 paper.
And just to clarify, Julian, the bit you're reading that calls the evidence into question, was this David Bellamy's statement at the hearing?
Yeah, I mean, he's using their numbers, which in some ways I'm not quite sure if that's really what he should be doing.
But what I mean is, who called it? Who called it into question when you said there that the evidence gathering is notoriously unreliable? Who stated that?
This is based on the papers that have been looking at what they're doing. So if you look at the technical review, ornithological data for collision risk modelling, Moore Vannin. So that is the actual paper. They flew an aircraft at 1,800 feet across the 253 kilometres, the huge area that's proposed for Moore Vannin. And they went across 12, just slightly down from horizontal transect lines. So when they're at 1,800 feet, that means that when they're going along those lines, going left and right across it, any birds that are flying outside of the view of that downward-facing camera would be missed. And estimating the height of the birds below is extremely difficult, if not impossible, based on looking down cameras from almost the height of Snae Fell. So the data gleaned from a survey aircraft looking at a narrow band of the Irish Sea would miss what's going on across the huge sea area at the same time. Inability to know the exact height of the birds below would make the assumptions for the collision model woefully inadequate and potentially a huge underestimation. And then you add in things, they're using cameras, so you've got glare, you've got the huge increase in the swept area of those rotors, and there's 87 of them, stormy weather, the sea state, birds following currents and prey that correspond to the narrow flight path.
So, in terms of all this, the shortcomings that you're reading out here, which document is this coming from, and what do they propose is the more accurate way of measuring this? What's the proposal?
What they're doing is they are using a document that is on the. This is within the documents on the MIMA website for the Isle of Man.
Right. Okay.
It's called Technical Review. Ornithological data for collision risk modelling, and what they say is they took an aircraft at 1,800 feet and did these. You see them on flight radar. They kind of do these lines across the Irish Sea.
Yep.
But the model is extremely sophisticated and requires a huge amount of data. But it would be. It's like when you do a manhunt on the moors somewhere. It's extremely difficult unless you have millions of people going in every little bit. So the assumption of 266 birds, well, it's like a needle in a haystack when you're up there. It's like trying to say that plankton's going extinct when you think that the Atlantic is 74 million cubic miles of seawater going all the way down. It's impossible to make these assumptions.
But my question to you, Julian, is then if this is, it's down to the usual, we can criticise what they're doing. What is the other option? Because you've either got evidence where you have to make an assumption. It's a bit like opinion polls. We don't actually get the opinion of 50, 60 million people across Britain. You get a survey sample and then you calculate up, and there's a margin for error. If this the system they have used to gain this evidence we feel is not accurate enough, we need this evidence. What is there that is better? What's the better system?
Well. You're saying exactly my thoughts. Why isn't somebody at the MIMA meetings asking Orsted and the panel, what is the accuracy of this data based on the fact that you've only got one aircraft doing these side-to-sides when 253 square kilometres is a huge sea area with lots going on. if you're making data set assumptions based on just that, and over a 2-year period, it sounds like a lot, but, I'm sure there were times when it was too stormy. Over 2 years, we've had some humdinger of storms. I'm sure they weren't going out in some of the worst storms we've had recently. Mm-hmm. So the amount of data that they've got and the quality of it, I mean, they're looking down with a camera. Can you imagine looking from the height of the mountain and estimating how far below you a bird is?
Well, I suppose, in fairness, when it comes to audio-visual equipment, which was, my background before here, it depends on how high resolution the camera equipment is. But in terms of the documents you got there, normally documents with any kind of evidence normally have, at least in the footnotes, the margin for error in terms of... Is that not mentioned within the documents?
No, and this is interesting because it's what's being posted in as evidence. But I'm slightly sceptical of Manx Wildlife Trust just trusting that it's only 266 of one particular auk species, guillemots, razorbills and puffins, and they're already seeing a decline. And a lot of people are wondering, is the decline because of the huge amount of wind turbines? Because it's notable in the North Sea off Lincolnshire area. It's also noticeable in the East Irish Sea. But the other point is sand eels are their food. And when you've got these massive things getting rammed in the ground for the foundations, sand eels are particularly susceptible to, because they're in the benthic layer. So they're getting hammered with these huge shock waves going, very, very quickly through the underneath the mud and everything.
We do have to be careful, though, in attributing, effect to a cause that we actually, have an opinion on. Because in terms of bird and wildlife deaths, we've heard for many years about how bird deaths were put down a lot to litter and plastics in the sea. They're down to general pollution as well, and other predators and habitats. So that it depends on which argument there is, because as you say, it could be down to this, but also it could not. And this is where you need that evidence, isn't it?
But with the big saying is with modelling, garbage in, garbage out. If you haven't got a proper systemic way of actually looking at all the birds across 253 kilometres, vertically up, say from 50 metres where the bottom of the blade's going to swipe them, all the way up to the 350 metre height. And you've got 87 of them, so you've got this huge wall of blades going across in front of these birds, day and night. I mean, were they doing surveys at night with migratory birds? It doesn't say that. And again, they didn't say that. They just said, it's over 2 years. So, these models need a lot of data. And if you've just got one aircraft just going across that huge sea area, there's a lot to be missed. I mean, think of that MH370 flight. They've been looking for that for years and they never found it on the seabed, in the southern Indian Ocean. So it's kind of the same thing. You can't necessarily say with any certainty, but Manx Wildlife are quoting this 266 figure, and I question, is it an underestimation when, you could have had hundreds of guillemots at 100 metres up chasing after things and diving in and, a bit like gannets and things. You see how they behave. They're fluttering around. Do
you know what, Julian? I'm going to finish up with an ultimate solution. I think you've got plenty of time in your hands. We could stick you as like a twitcher on Mackle's head there. I'll give you a thermos, a little jotter's diary and some binoculars. How do you like that one?
Yeah, well, that might actually be more useful than just flying one aircraft around and then making big assumptions.
I thought you might say that.
There's only a handful of birds.
Right, I'm going to move on, Julian, but lovely to speak to you. Thanks very much. There we go. So if you see Julian sitting out on Mackle's head, I've sent him out there, but take him with a box of sandwiches with him. Brian is on, wants to talk about the election of the next Tynwald president. Hello, Brian.
Hello there, Alex and listeners. Yes, not much been said about the election of the new president at Tynwald. Not much discussion at all, really. But I think it's a role, actually, that shouldn't be elected by the outgoing ministers. This is a role that should overroll and, into the next year, and it should be elected by the new members.
Do you think it's...
As it is now, it's too cosy a situation, and I also think that anybody who's been in MHK and goes forward for presidency should not have been in MHK for 5 years. They should stand away from the politics
Do you feel, though, that there's two sides to what you've suggested there? Number one is that if it's the existing Parliament that's voting them in, that means that if there is a new Parliament, there might not be any allegiances there. So it removes that bias because, of course, the President of Tynwald has to be completely neutral in the middle of it. And also, if they haven't got a background in politics, this is an issue that many people raise with MLCs at the moment, that they've not come from being MHK, so they haven't got the experience, the scrutinising experience for properly scrutinising legislation to a high standard. Surely, as much as everyone always thinks it's a bit of a gravy train, we want people with that experience in those jobs, don't we?
Well, I mean, we've actually got... the Attorney General, non-elected member there. He could run the meeting. Why not? Or it could be combined. It could be the Speaker job and the President at the same job.
Well, the Speaker obviously is only the Speaker of the House of... The Speaker is the House of Keys, whereas our parliamentary system has two chambers, doesn't it? So the House of Keys is the lower chamber, then there's the upper chamber, and the President's role actually replaced the Lieutenant Governor because it's the head of state. So the President is there, of course, as the effectively running... the conjoined parliament, so it's a statutory role rather than a professional one. I get your point on the Attorney General. He's the government's professional lawyer, advocate, effectively, in layman's terms. But in terms of the political situation, and the President of Tynwald replaced the Lieutenant Governor as the effectively the head honcho, who's got to remain neutral in the middle. I mean, would you prefer to see it elected as a layperson?
Well, why not? I mean, why don't you use the bishop?
Well,
to be the president, the bishop's been at Tynwald since the year 1614, and as the bishop hasn't got a vote anymore. What better? They're very intelligent people. They're bishops. They're very highly qualified. And they have a different way of looking at life. They can make decisions, or they don't have to make, but they're good listeners. Why not the bishop?
It's an interesting point.
Give her something to do when she's in the chamber. At least she's not sitting there, not being able to do anything.
That was a good point. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Brian. That's a very good point. I mean, could you imagine after we've had all this debate over the bishop's vote and a proposal for the bishop to basically chair Tynwald instead as an unbiased representative? That would be very interesting. Thank you, Brian. Lovely to have your call. Let's go through a few more of your texts. And texter 557 says, Alex, were there red faces of the politicians, the sun, or the embarrassment at the missing Douglas tramway to the sea terminal? Should it have been 75 years this half and 75 years the other half when it's reinstated, says John. Thank you, John. Yeah, that's rather funny. Yeah, I did have this vision of Charles just standing there going, it's very good. Where's the rest of it? And, dear wife, I don't know, take the chief executive to the tower. He spoke very, very warmly about the international significance of the Douglas Bay Horse Tramway. So it'll be interesting to see whether, when the business case is in Tynwald next week for the vote, will our elected representatives follow in the same suit with their head of state, who's obviously endorsed the value of the horse tramway, or will they go against the view of the head of state? Interesting. Let's have a look. Alex. Here we go. Gary and Ramsey says, it's funny how the narrative bends to suit themselves when money is involved. I think this was when I was talking about how a lot of the cuts in services and pushing everything online is normally driven by money rather than us going green. I think we said there at the beginning the idea of a community hub when I was chatting to Julian about people having to drive miles for things. He says, did you know when it comes to plastic pollution, isn't it around 30% through what we wear going out from our washing machines? As what we wear, modern clothing, is poisoning our bodies, is plastic. Oh, I see what you mean, Gary, as in the water that comes out your washing machine, there's synthetic fibres in your clothes. I don't know the details to that, but I know that is something that people do talk about, Gary. Thank you. Let's go through some more of your message here. Confused Dave in Douglas says, regarding the King's visit, the Union Jack flag... They're not Union Jacks, Dave. They're only a jack if they're a flown on board a ship. Regarding the King's visit, the Union flags on Loch Prom have been taken down sharpish and replaced with a Triskelion. With so many cruise visitors on the island today, would it have not been prudent to keep them up until the end of the week? Possibly, Dave. I mean, when it comes to national flags, the three legs of man, the Triskelion looks fantastic out there on Douglas Promenade, and it is a sign of respect when you have visiting dignitaries that you fly their flag alongside yours, as a sign of mutual respect and to welcome them. So it's a judgment call, I'd imagine. Marie on text says a priority for the new government in September should be to bring back the regional gangs in the DOI, the river gangs, the footpath gangs and the winter tree lopping gangs. We need to make the island functional again. I think those were all dropped when the VAT bombshell hit in 2008, 2009 to save money, which is why everything's now contracted out. It's rare I defend the DOI, and it's normally the DOI management that come in for the criticism, not the staff on the ground. But they just don't have the staff. They don't have the staff. They don't have the money, and that's not the DOI's fault. That goes back to the ultimate villain of government, which is always Treasury. If they haven't got the money to employ the staff, you haven't got the gangs. But Marie, if your candidates come banging on the door, tell them you want the island to look better. WhatsApp user 221 says the phone signal is so bad in Ramsey from Manx Telecom that it actually works better if you dial your phone back down to 3G. Shocking considering the prices they actually charge. Come on, Manx Telecom, fess up. Why is the service so bad? Okay, don't pretend that you're not listening. WhatsApp user 302 says my driving licence expired on the 6th of July. It's almost 3 weeks since I posted my completed driving licence renewal form together with the fee to the driving test centre. My cheque has gone through my bank on the 6th of July and I'm still awaiting for my new licence. I've tried to ring the centre but without success. And the DOI CEO, in reply to my email, has now passed my problem to a colleague for action. Am I legal if I continue to drive my car? I'd probably say you're not. If your driving licence is expired, you're not allowed to drive. Okay? Yeah, I would not advise you driving at all. Les on WhatsApp says, I complained to Manx Telecom in TT about the very poor connection because being a taxi, using SumUp, I couldn't get connected. This is a problem. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who said about how the SumUp connection that many people use now for credit card payments for small businesses like taxi drivers, if you can't get your mobile signal, you're stuffed. Okay, and Les says, I'm still waiting on management at Manx Telecom getting back to me. I phoned again last Friday and I'm still waiting. I pay over £160 per month customer service. This is shocking. All they want is your money. So thinking getting UK customer contract with roaming for Isle of Man or a mini Starlink. I suppose even if you got a UK customer roaming contract, it's still going through the Manx Telecom network. Okay, Starlink is the only other way past it, sadly. Rosemary, I waited a month for a logbook after purchasing a car, and that was after several phone calls and emails. Thank you for that one there, Rosemary. Also, let's have a look. What else we got here? Charlie on text says, correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the 50s and 60s, I can't correct you on this one, I'm afraid, but yeah, back in the 50s and 60s, all cars were taxed on the 1st of April, when the then Highway Board office was in Athol Street. I remember the room was packed out all day. It probably was, because the 1st of April, of course, is the beginning and, effectively the end, the day before, of the financial year. So probably, yeah, you used to have to pay your car tax and your road tax for the start of the year. Jude on WhatsApp says, we went to the vehicle licensing centre and paid cash for our annual licence. We had to wait 16 days to get the disc through the post. What's happened to the machines in the post office that used to print the discs out immediately? Another backward step. Les says, it's about time... Oh, this is interesting. This is different. It's about time the government talked to Loganair about the pricing of their flights. They've gone up massively in the last year. I picked up a businessman who came over for 24 hours for a meeting. It cost him £320 return. £320 return, crikey. They're called Logan Ripoff. That's why EasyJet flights are full and Loganair are empty. In fairness, are they empty? I get your point that they're expensive, but, you know. John on WhatsApp. Surely it's up to, this is regarding the taxi drivers, surely it's up to the taxi owners to vet the drivers better and not just blame the vehicle licensing people. As, after all, they employ these people. There are only 2 or 3 big taxi companies. Surely they aren't doing enough to safeguard the public. Well, I suppose There's an argument that, yes, you should be DBS checking and checking out and doing due diligence on your staff. However, there is an element of the fact that, the government is here to regulate industries, and they do, in many industries. So I can see both sides of that one. Gary on text says, the bollards at the bottom of Summerhill that seem to have been there for ages suddenly get moved for the king coming. What are they doing there anyway? I think they're protecting the scaffolding that's forever holding up Tramway Terrace, waiting for the DOI to finally admit that they're not going to do anything with it. Margaret on text says, am I right in thinking that sitting MHKs who stand for re-election, if unsuccessful the next general election, get a substantial compensation payment? Yeah, there is a... I forget the official title. It's a bit like a redundancy payment, isn't it? So yes, Margaret, if your MHK is standing again, ask them, if they don't get in, are they going to accept the payment? Are they going to pay full tax on it? Be interesting to see their answer. Thank you very much for your company today on the Mannin Line. Beth Espy's up next with 1 to 3. Thank you to my producer today, Michelle Kane. Have a lovely day.